we gather together today as the dear family and friends of Janice Budish. As we mourn her loss, must also celebrate the full, rich life she led. Death has taken our beloved Jan. Friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence, there is lamentation. In their tears, there is loneliness. Lost in their sorrow, may they find the presence of loving friends. Hear them, O God, and be with them. For her love that united us in life, and which death cannot sever. For her companionship which we shared along life's path, and which still continues through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of her heart and her mind, which brought us joy and happiness, and now become a precious heritage of the Spirit. For all these and more, God, we give you our praise. In his sorrow, Job cried out, Adonai natan, v'nai lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai mevarach. God has given, God has taken away. Blessed be the name of God. An ancient people, we are well acquainted with grief and with the valley of shadows. Death and sorrow are not strangers to us, yet the centuries have taught us that a good name endures beyond the grave, and there is strength in faith. With Job we say, Adonai natan, God you have given, you gave us a loved one who will not be forgotten. For all it was good and enduring in her life, we offer the deepest thanks of our hearts. Proverbs 31. Eshet chayo mi yimsa, v'verchok mitni mikra. A woman of valor who can find. She's more precious than fine pearls. Her husband trusts in her, and so he lacks nothing. She does him good, never harm, all the days of her life. She perceives that her labor is rewarding. Her candle burns on into the night. She reaches out to those in need and extends her hands to the poor. She is clothed in strength and dignity, and she faces the future cheerfully. She speaks with wisdom. The law of kindness is on her lips. Her children rise up and bless her. Her family sings her praises. Many daughters have done valiantly, but you excel them all. A poem by Kathy Zink. Take time to talk. Few may ask of all things unknown to you. Take time to laugh, for smiles relinquish sorrow and spread happiness. Take time to think, for the realm of knowledge is never ending. Take time to see, for there is beauty in every part of the world around you. Take time to feel, for the emotions of your heart often control the reasoning of your mind. Take time to live, for each day is filled with new opportunities that will be gone tomorrow. Take time to dream, for survival is forever challenging the powers of your imagination. Take time to love, for the sharing of all these things is a true miracle of life. Adonai ro'i lo echsar, bina desha yar bitseni, amei minachot yanachaleni. Please join me now in the familiar words of the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters, and restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The Baal Shem Tov, the Hasidic Rebbe, once observed that there are 3 ways to mourn. The first is with tears, the second is with silence, and the third is with song. When we mourn someone truly beloved, we experience all three. Tears at first, then silence as our grief settles more deeply, and finally song as we're able to celebrate the memories we hold deep in our hearts. So today is a time for tears as we say our final goodbyes to Jan. We'll each remember Jan in our own way. Armand and Amy, Marilyn, Barry and Ellen, and Debbie and Gary. You will all remember Jan as your devoted mother. Ryan and Sarah, Daniel, Bailey, Shayna, Rebecca, Marley, Jacqueline, Benjamin, and Nalani. You will all remember Jan as your loving Nana. Jan was an adoring great-grandmother to Winnie, and Jan was a dear sister-in-law to Melvin and Linda and Buddy and Ruth, and a caring aunt to your children, Todd, Sabrina, Lane, and Andy. And Jan was also a cherished cousin to Marcia and Herb, and to your children, Lee and Howard. Jan was born in Chicago on December 1st, 1930, to Anna Vera and Robert Ziv. She had one younger sister, Rosalind. Jan grew up in Chicago and attended Hyde Park High School. Jan was not raised with much religion, but in high school she took herself to Hebrew school because she wanted a Jewish education and Jewish identity. And later as an adult she even taught Sunday school at Park Synagogue in Shari Tikva. When Jan married Irv, his mother, Bubby, taught Jan how to keep a kosher home. Jan met her beloved Irving on a blind date. They were set up by his brother, Buddy. They went on a double date, and the other girl's name was Janice. Irving got the wrong girl's phone number and meant to call the other girl, but got Jan instead. She was just 18. Irving was 8.5 years older and just back from the war. But it only took them 6 dates to decide this was it. They got married in Chicago at the Del Prada Hotel on August 20th, 1950. They moved to Cleveland for Irv's job at Dalton & Dalton. Jan and Irv's first apartment was on Eddington Road in Cleveland Heights, and then they moved into their first house on Harwood in South Euclid. Armand was born, and 2 years later, Marilyn, and then 7 years later, Barry, and then Debbie. Between those two sets of children, Jan went back to Western Reserve and got her college degree in education. And now the two sets of children have different memories of family vacations. The older ones remember their parents taking them everywhere and to family-friendly resorts, while the younger two remember their parents going away and leaving them with their older sister Marilyn to watch them. But what they all agree on is that Jan and Irving had a wonderful partnership, and the children were always their first priority. When the kids were little, Jan got a job as a camp counselor at the Riviera Swim Club in Lorain County, so the kids could go to camp there. She loved taking her children and later her grandchildren to Memphis Kiddie Park. In 1971, the Budish family moved to Bethesda for Irv's job and then returned to Cleveland in 1977. Jan was involved with Naamat, Pioneer Women, and Hadassah, and she was a member of Park Synagogue Sisterhood. Jan enjoyed playing mahjong and knitting. She also took art classes all over Cleveland, and she taught cooking classes for kids at the JCC. Jan was the social planner for her group of friends, organizing parties and card games. She had a big circle of friends in both Cleveland and Bethesda. In Cleveland, Jan would watch her grandsons, Daniel and Ryan, in the afternoons. She always prepared the songs and games she did at preschool for them to enjoy too. After Irv passed away in 2008, Jan moved to Baltimore to be near Barry and Ellen and many of her children and grandchildren on the East Coast. During these last 11 years, Jan lived in independent, then assisted living, and finally a nursing home. She loved spending time with her grandchildren at Passover Seders and Thanksgiving dinners. Jan always loved the movies. She used to take herself as a child and loved to go in later years with Barry every Sunday. Jan's family describes her as energetic, loving, creative, and outgoing. Jan was never judgmental, and there wasn't a mean bone in her body. She never measured what she gave. She would give you the shirt off her back. Jan was always a trusting and affectionate person. So today may be a time for tears. We are saddened by the loss of Jan, but we learned much from her, especially how to care for one another. Let these tears serve to strengthen and uphold you as a family. Tomorrow there'll be fewer tears, more silence. As the Baal Shem Tov noted, it will be a time for pondering, a time for contemplation. Jan will become a greater part of our characters and our beings as we integrate the memories and the values she taught us into our own selves. But finally, there'll come a time for song. The time will come when we can celebrate Jan, recall all that we learned from her and how she touched each of our lives. May she rest in peace. Zecher Tzidaka Livracha. May the memory of Janice Budish be a blessing. Amen. I'd now like to invite Jan's 4 children in age order, Arlen, Marilyn, Barry, and Debbie, to share some personal memories about their mother.
I appreciate all of you coming out today to support us. One dear family member's name was omitted, and I don't want to omit one of Mom's nephews, Lane Budish of blessed memory. As a politician, I have to start with a few family thank yous. So I want to take a moment to thank my siblings for all they've done to enrich Mom's life. You'll hear from each of them in a moment. Marilyn is the organizer, the take charge daughter. If Mom needed something done, we'd call Marilyn. If the doctors weren't doing enough, they would hear from Marilyn. Marilyn was the matriarch. Thank you, Marilyn. Debbie's the most positive, optimistic, happy, loving person. She's the ray of sunshine every family needs. She was always Mom's baby, and she always brought a special light into Mom's life. And I want to thank Debbie's husband, Gary, too. You know, it's often the daughters and daughters-in-law that carry the burdens as a parent ages. But Gary is something special. He did so much for Mom in so many ways. Thank you, Gary. And speaking of in-laws, I want to thank my wife, Amy. She was always there for my parents, especially after my dad got sick. Amy did so much for my parents. Even my siblings don't know how much she did because she didn't talk about it much. Helping out with my dad, driving over to the apartment whenever there were emergencies, and there were many. Amy was a loving daughter-in-law. I want to thank our surrogate sibling, Uncle Mel. Mel was a lot younger than our dad, and he lived with us for a number of years. He was the older brother I never had, and he helped Mom during our early years. I want to thank Mel and his wonderful wife, Linda, for coming in. But most, I want to thank my brother Barry and his wife, Ellen. For the last decade, Mom lived in Baltimore, in the Baltimore area, so that she could be close to Barry and Ellen. They were wonderful. They hosted the family gathering so everyone could see Mom. They handled her care needs. Most important, as Rabbi mentioned, Barry took Mom out to a movie and to dinner just about every Sunday, which made her so happy, and which I believe clearly extended her life. Barry and Ellen, thank you. Okay, that's the thank yous. Now I want to tell you just a bit about Mom. Mom was a teacher, and she loved it. She especially loved teaching preschool, and she loved teaching Sunday school. She loved the kids, and they loved her. And she taught her own kids so much. I'm glad to have the chance to fill you in on 3 of the very special lessons that my mom taught me. Lesson number 1, it's a good thing children cannot fly. Mom loved her children more than anything in the world. She would do anything for us. But her second love was her pets, in particular parakeets. She had a cute little parakeet named Flappy, although Barry claims that it was his. She felt that her parakeet should not always be locked up in a cage, so she'd let it fly around the house or her apartment. But Mom also liked to keep windows open for fresh air. And I think you know where this is going. One day, Flappy flapped away out the window. It was very sad. So Mom got Flappy number 2. Flappy 2 lived with us for a while, until one day, out the window it went. Flappy 3, same thing. So we just started numbering the Flappies, and I think we got up to about 37. And that gets to the lesson. Mom helped her children to soar, but it's a good thing children don't have wings. Lesson number 2, don't believe everything you read. Mom enjoyed cooking. She wasn't what you'd call a gourmet cook, or even a good cook. But there were some dishes she did do well. One was her Budish apple pie, a recipe from her mother-in-law, who we reverently called Bubby. One day, Mom's friends convinced her to send the recipe into the Cleveland Jewish News, where it was published. Now, lots of people love to make the dishes that get listed in the Jewish News, and then they write in. I think Budish apple pie generated more comments than any other recipe ever. Unfortunately, Mom omitted a key ingredient. People weren't too happy. So the lesson, don't believe everything you read. Finally, lesson number 3, don't clean your room. I don't think we were much different from other kids. Mom was always telling us, clean up our rooms. And as anyone who's seen my office knows, I know Laura's out there, room cleaning was not my greatest strength. So every now and then, Mom would get fed up and clean my room for me. 2 types of items contributed to the clutter in my room. First was the hundreds of comic books that Mom had bought me. Second was my thousands of baseball cards. Had Mom not decluttered my room today, I would probably not have to work for a living. So lesson number 3, don't clean your room. Now, Mom actually taught us a lot of important life lessons. Unfortunately, I don't have time to tell you about lesson number 4, always keep your auto and homeowner's insurance paid up. Or lesson number 5, how to turn food into penicillin. Or many others. Let me just say, Mom was the most loving and trusting person I've ever known. No ulterior motives, no games playing, not a mean bone in her body. I'm honored to be her son, and I will miss her.
Well, as usual, my brother took up most of my time, which I am used to, being number 2. But I am going to just tell you that, as the rabbi mentioned, Mom always was interested in knitting like my Bubby. So today I brought with me a little gift that Mom made me several years ago. She was very proud of her knitting, and it was one of the things that she took great pride in and really enjoyed. In fact, she was a member of a knitting club. I leave it in my office as a constant reminder of my mother, and I pull it out every now and then to show my employees. and it always brings a little bit of joy to everybody when I bring it out. She wanted to knit something for me in my favorite color, which is purple, and she wanted to give me something that would be useful, which was a scarf. So today I'm bringing it here to show you what she made me. This is my scarf. And I think this depicts Mom in a nutshell. Mom was creative, one of a kind, unique, a little bit of a short attention span, as you can tell, and a woman who marched to a different beat, but we all loved her. Thank you.
So when I was growing up, my mom had many different roles. She was my Uber driver. She took me to karate class, to soccer games, to the pool in the summer, to the library after school, to tumbling class, to friends' houses, to the mall, to the movies. She was my cook. She made caramel apples on Halloween. She made kreplach and special plain chopped liver for me on Rosh Hashanah. On Passover, she made matzah pizza. Every day after school, she would make sure before I started my homework that I had a snack, whether it was mini egg rolls or mini pizza. And all year round, she would make cakes, cookies, fudge, and donuts, and include me. She was my nurse who waited on me when I was sick. She took me to doctor appointments. She bought me comic books when I was sick and to try and get my mind off being sick. She was my paramedic who made sure I always got to the ER doctor at times like when my hand got stuck in the Mixmaster or when I was hit in the head with a golf club or when I sledded headfirst into a brick wall or when a sibling slapped my ear and burst my eardrum. And one night when I had a nightmare and didn't wake up while I was kicking a metal bookcase beside my bed until my feet were bleeding. She was my teacher who took me to the library. And when we sat at the library for hours reading collections of Alfred Hitchcock or Edgar Allan Poe short stories. She bought me scholastic books and she inspired me to be an avid reader. And then, after my dad passed away and she moved to Cleveland, our roles changed. I was the realtor who helped her rent a cottage in Maryland with my wife. I was the Uber driver taking her to her doctor appointments. But most of all, she became my friend, going to movies and dinner every week, and I'll miss her.
Well, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and so is perception. And my perception is very different from my other siblings because my experience growing up as the youngest child is based on my unique lens. My mom, Jan Budish, was a very active parent who chose to work half days teaching preschool so that she could be home with me every day after school. She was my Brownie and Girl Scout leader and the troop's cookie mom. And my favorite time of year was when the Girl Scout troop would go camping and we would sleep in those raised tents. It was during these trips when I learned how to make the best s'mores over the campfires. a skill that I have shared with my own children. My mom would tell us ghost stories. She was a very wonderful storyteller. She would scare the crap out of us. She also taught us how to dip the tips of the matches in nail polish before our trips so they would light even when they got wet. As the cookie mom, she taught us how to schmooze people to get them to buy cookies. Not only did I learn about monetary responsibility and math skills, but I also learned the importance of building relationships to earn repeat business. As you already heard, during the summers, my mom worked at a day camp or at several day camps. I remember going with my mom to the camp where she taught drama. And I loved watching her puppet shows and her finger plays that she did with the children. And on the way home, we would stop at High's in Maryland and get Chili Willies. It was their version of the Slurpee and the perfect thing to cool us down after a hot day in the sun. My mom was very active and wanted us to know how to do everything. She taught us how to ride bicycles and how to ride a horse and how to roller skate and ice skate, although I'm not very good at that. And she also taught my best friend in elementary school who lived on our street the same thing. She included her in everything we did because she felt bad that she was home with a housekeeper while her parents both worked full-time. Her attitude was that if she was doing things for one person, why not do them for two? This was more evidence of her love of teaching. She worked teaching into everything she did, such as cooking. And as you already heard, my mom was not the best cook, but she sure loved trying. She would make this fudge that on her recipe was labeled Remarkable Fudge. And it was the most delicious fudge that never ever hardened. We called it fudge soup, and it wasn't a very pretty picture, but if you could get past the look, it really tasted delicious. A favorite recipe of hers that she loved teaching was called paintbrush cookies. It's a honey cookie like a graham cracker that's then painted with a food color mixture. Nalani and I made cookies this week, those cookies, using her recipe, and we had a lot of fun. They're really fun to make. I'll have some available at the Shiva. Sorry, I meant to bring them here. In high school, I became an only child when all the other kids went out of the house. And this provided me with the unique opportunity to spend quality time with my parents. When my dad traveled for work, my mom and I would go out to eat, talk a lot, as mom usually did, and sleep together in her bed. And I think it was because she was lonely when my dad was away. And I remember this one time when my dad was traveling and I attended a Park Synagogue confirmation class event. My mom thought that I should have been home by about 11 and was worried. She couldn't reach me because, of course, cell phones had not been invented yet. And I was still at the event in the social hall when the police came looking for me and drove me home. It was quite embarrassing. Usually, my mom was very trusting, like when she would send me in a taxi to dance class when she couldn't drive me, or when she let me walk to my friend's house alone when I was about 7. However, my friend lived several blocks away, and I had no idea how to get there, although I told my mom that I did. And needless to say, I got lost and went to a stranger's house who proceeded to call my mom and chew her out for being so irresponsible for allowing such a young child to walk unsupervised across the school district. And needless to say, I was on a pretty short leash after that. When I was 16, my dad taught me how to drive, much like he taught my mom. Early in their marriage, he and my mom agreed that she needed to drive so that she could really be independent. My mom loved to drive and feel that independence. She was never the best driver, didn't like driving on the highways, and preferred to drive well under the speed limit. But she knew all the back roads to get everywhere she needed to go. And as the years went on, her driving got worse, and her cars increasingly resembled survivors of the demolition derby, and they sounded like Darth Vader from Star Wars. I'll do the sound for you. Okay. And we got one of those cars, and it was quite an experience. And it lasted a while, even all dented up and sounding that way. Luckily, one of the things my mom learned early on while marrying into the Budish family, and later she taught me, was to take teasing in stride. Let things roll off of you. We would tease Mom about all kinds of things: her driving, her cooking, her knitting, her sewing, her favorite child, and especially her favorite child. But she would just laugh and roll with it. She showed resilience and taught us that, or taught me that anyway. My mom wanted me to be a teacher like her. And as I look back, there was teaching in pretty much everything that I did. I was a swim teacher, a lifeguard instructor, a manager, a mentor, and a parent. And we all pass knowledge from generation to generation. So isn't there a little teacher in all of us? I think that my mom will continue to live on in our lives through us and through our children, many of whom share her love of independence, movies and theater, art, music, and drama. Others have her sense of humor, her hospitality, her social skills, her warmth, and her extroverted nature. And others share her goal of improving the lives of others through their work and contributions. My mom taught me that a person does not need to earn a lot of money to feel self-worth and have an impact in the world. Sometimes it's enough just to have a huge heart, feel passion, and be a good person. Thank you all for coming today and for celebrating my mom's life with us. She cared deeply for all of you, and you brought her a lot of joy.
Thank you all for your beautiful, heartfelt words. Birth is a beginning, and death a destination. But life is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage, from childhood to maturity, and youth to age, from innocence to awareness, and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion, and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength, or strength to weakness, and often back again. From health to sickness, and back we pray to health again. From offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see victory lies not at some high place along the way, but having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning, and death a destination. But life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage made stage by stage to life everlasting. Michael's bringing something. just have a delivery of senatorial citation on behalf of State Senator Sandra Williams in memory of Janice Sharell Budish. I was deeply saddened to learn of the death of Jan and extend my sincere condolences to her family and friends. Jan left an indelible impression on the people whose lives she touched, and she will be remembered as a spirited individual who contributed immeasurably to the world around her. Her concern for improving the quality of life in our society was clearly evident in her personal sacrifice of time and energy to her family, friends, and community, and her absence will be keenly felt. Janice was preceded in death by her beloved husband, Irving Budish, devoted mother of Marilyn Sargent of Virginia, Armin Amy Budish, Barry Ellen Budish of Maryland, and Deborah Gary Shiner of PA. Loving grandmother of Ryan and Sarah, Daniel, Bailey, Shana, Rebecca, Marley, Jacqueline, Benjamin, Nalani, and loving great-grandmother Winnie. Cherished sister-in-law of Melvin and Linda Budish, and the late Buddy and Ruth Budish. Jan always used her talents to the benefit of others, and the laurels of her life stand as a tribute not only to her, but also to those she left behind. Although the void her death has created can never be filled, the legacy of care and commitment she established will surely live on. It is certain that the world is a richer place for her having been in it, and she will be sorely missed. Thus, with deepest sympathy, I mourn the loss and salute the memory of a truly unique individual. Signed by Sandra Williams, State Senator, 21st District. So I'll give this to the family. Very beautiful. If you're able, I'd like you to now rise for our closing prayer, El Malay Rachamim. El Malay Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hamse Minocha Nechona Tachat Hanfei Hashchina, Im Kedoshim Otehorim, Kozor Harakia Mazirim, Et Ishmat, Haisha Tova Hazot, Shalacha La'olama. Bal harachamim yasdirechu beseter kinafav laolamim. Vayitzor bitzra chachayim et nishmata naihu nachalata. V'tenuach b'shalom amishkava v'nomar. Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of our universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to our beloved Janice Budish, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace, and let us all say amen. Amen. Please be seated for a few moments. This concludes our service here. The family will proceed to the cemetery for a private burial and will then be receiving friends for Shiva at the clubhouse, the community room, the clubhouse at the village from 1 to 5 and 6 to 8 this evening. And the village clubhouse is at 26000 Village Lane in Beechwood. Thank you very much.